We also have a Japanese movie called Best Wishes to All. Now, this is going to be a really tough one for me to talk about in much detail. I might do a little spoiler section on this if I remember to do it at the end. I might do a spoiler section on this because this has a lot of spoilers and a lot of things that you need to figure out. But Best Wishes to All is directed by Yûta Shimotsu. And I forgot to write down all of the actors' names, and that's probably fine because you'd have to hear me mispronounce a bunch of Japanese actors' names. Basically, it just starts out with a young woman. I'll just call her daughter slash granddaughter. A young woman returning from the city back to her family home in the country in Japan. She lives in Tokyo. She's working, training to be a nurse. And one of her family members is getting ill or getting older. Her grandparents are living there still. And she goes back to stay with her grandparents. She gets there and they all greet her and everyone's happy. It's like you'd expect. Oh my gosh, it's so good to have you back. And they're they're really joyous. They want to feed her, and she's having all this nostalgia and all this stuff. Now, remember, at the beginning of this movie, the opening thing right before we came to present day, the opening scene was as a little girl, you saw her or she had kind of a nightmare of when she was a little girl, hearing like weird sounds from upstairs, like a bump in the dark, very much of a ghost story. The classic thing where she went upstairs and she walked down a dark hall and there was a door at the end of the hallway and it really was spooky and it was cracked open and she heard and she saw something she couldn't quite make it out. She heard weird wheezing sounds. Is it a ghost or what is it? Another family member like sick? You weren't sure, but she woke up and that was a thing that haunted her. So when she gets back to the grandparents' house, of course, that's in your mind. First thing is that what's that door? Is it still there? And of course, she does go to that door. It's still there and it's locked. And she asks about it, and they're like, "Oh, we just keep storage and stuff in there. It's no big deal." So it's played off right off the bat as this classic trope of a locked door in a house. What's behind that door? That's an opening suspicion here. This is presented as a horror movie as well. It is, I think, Shudder might have some stakes in this. And this is also a movie where I don't know how to describe it. There's these certain movies where you go to a town and everyone acts weird. You go to a house and everyone acts normal, but there's something really odd about it. There's some unusual behavior, and your main character gets slowly drawn into a mystery or an unusual world, and you're not sure what's happening. Wicker Man would be like kind of a classic example of that. This movie is definitely a variation of that as well, because so one of the first examples you get is she's having a dinner with her grandparents. Her parents haven't shown up yet, but her parents are supposed to arrive soon. She's at the dinner with her grandparents and they're offering her all this stuff and miso and everything, and she's really enjoying it, saying how great it tastes. Oh, you like it? Yeah, you like it. And then at one point they say, "Here's some pork that whatever neighbor gave us this pork. It's really great." And she tries it. Oh, yeah, it's really good. And then the two grandparents just stop in the middle of the conversation and just start oinking, like really oinking a whole bunch. And it's just goofy, but also odd. And she's taking it as odd. It's not like it's given to us as a normal occurrence. We're supposed to be seeing it just like she does. What are you doing? And they just play it off. And then later they ask her something else. I think at some point they say to her like, "Hey, are you happy now?" And she's, "Yeah, I'm happy." And they're like, "Oh, that's good." Just an odd thing to ask. Like, why would you ask if she's happy in such an open, like overt way? And also, are you happy now? And you're like, what does that mean? Was she really unhappy as a child? And you're just constantly asking your questions. Did she suffer like depression as a child? Is there like a past we don't know about her? And let's just say at about the 30-minute mark, a big occurrence happens. Somebody comes into the scene that you didn't know was in the house. I'm trying to be very vague because I don't want to spoil some things. And the young woman who's there with the grandparents is shocked and really freaked out when she sees that person and discovers that person's there. And the grandparents are just like, oh, the grandparents take it as matter of fact. And basically it introduces a element to this world that is supposed to be just a common element that occurs everywhere, at least everywhere in the country. They're not very clear about that. And that this common element is something that she should know about. It's a family heritage. And she is more than freaked out by what this common element is. And this is where the movie goes from just what a regular old horror movie into a very high concept horror movie, in the sense that it presents a world that is not a realistic world, but it becomes a highly metaphoric world. So essentially, the horror in this movie has to do a lot with, I guess I'm trying to say vague again, how the common inhumanity of man in the real world, right? In this horror movie is presented in a very metaphoric way, in a heightened, unnatural way that is supposed to show how people rely on inhumanity and cruelty on a daily basis and take it for granted, and how we should actually look at that and be like, what the heck are we doing? And I don't know if it, in this case, is supposed to stand for eating meat, or if it's, and I'm going to be vague once again, it's not necessarily giving you a clue of what they're doing. It's maybe the way that we eat meat, or the way that we use labor from people that is maybe, say, for example, in Americans, we profit or we get cheap goods because we use labor that's very cruel and unfair, or even child labor. We're getting things from countries that don't have the same standards that we're supposed to have, at least. Or maybe we rely on the industrial military complex. A whole bunch of that stuff's giving us a different certain kind of life, but that it's causing pain and suffering to other peoples. So there's a lot of things you could see that this is being symbolic for, but it's giving it to us in a very concrete, almost supernatural way. So once again, did it always work? I guess I really appreciate the audacity and the uniqueness of it. So that alone, I think, put it in 3-star range for me. And I'm really on the fence of this because it's up and down on this movie. As a horror movie, I think it's going to be really disappointing to some people. To people who hate those, quote, elevated horrors or horror movies that are trying to be about ideas and not really about scares, I could see a lot of them being really disappointed with this movie. But I could see some people who like really oddball, really unusual, especially thematic horror movies, movies that are very, I want to say, allegorical. If you like those kind of movies, I could see people who like Cronenberg movies really liking this movie because it's not really body horror so much, but it definitely is high concept. And Cronenberg loves to do those high concept things like Videodrome or Scanners or Rabid, some of those early movies of his where he just said, what if this happened? And what is this saying about society? And I'm going to turn it into a horror movie. The Brood. This movie kind of does a weird thing like that too. For me, it worked, like I said, conceptually, it worked a lot as the really oddness of the concept worked really good for me. What didn't work always for me was the tone. Sometimes it was in a line between, there's a level of goofiness to it. I feel like it wanted to be really disturbing. And to me, it wasn't as disturbing as it was goofy at points. And I don't know though. Maybe it was supposed to be that way. This one really perplexes me because sometimes I was thinking of a movie like A Happiness of the Katakaras, which, if you don't know that movie, which you probably don't, it's a Takeshi Miike movie, which is this odd family comedy musical zombie movie. Yes, all those words were together, but it was overtly comedic. This one is not overtly comedic, but I think it is. I think it's supposed to be comedic. And if it is supposed to be comedic, I think I like it even better. If it's not, I think it didn't work as well for me. So like I said, I'm really torn on this movie. Also, last thing, I'm being so vague. The last thing is, I don't quite understand all of the rules. This is a movie, again, where when you discover what is factually occurring in this kind of unreal version of the world that we're presented here, they give us kind of some of the rules of what's happening and what it means. But I wasn't always sure understanding exactly what all those things mean, or if they were following what rules exactly. I was a little confused. Like a character gets pregnant at one point, and I'm not going to say who, but I was like, why is that happening? And where did that go? I almost felt like maybe this was based on a manga, like a Junji Ito manga thing, but that I only had some of the chapters. I didn't have all the chapters, and one of the chapters would have really explained that one thing that happened. Like, why do certain characters have things sewn? I'm going to say sewn shut. I don't understand exactly, but I kind of understand why okay, it's too vague for people to get. Anyway, I've really varied on the rating in this movie, or this. Yeah, I would say it's definitely a recommend to the right person. I talked about that already. I think for me, I'm going to go 3.5. 3.5, I think, is fair. It's definitely good. It's definitely really interesting. And depending on how I come down on the comedy side of it, it might even go higher. If it's supposed to be really serious and disturbing, I might go a little lower. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but that's where I'm going to be. 3.5.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.